The 6th-ranked Oregon Ducks going into maybe the most hostile environment not named Autzen Stadium in the country, taking on the 3rd-ranked Nittany Lions of Penn State. The blue and white are 3.5-point home favorites. The over-under in this one is 51.5. It all goes down Saturday, 4:30 p.m. Pacific time, Big Ten Saturday night on NBC. Noah Eagle, Todd Blackledge, and Catherine Tappan will be on the call in this game. There's one word that I think really goes into both of these teams, and I think applies to both of these teams. Pressure. We know that there is pressure on Penn State this season. I think the thought that I have about the Nittany Lions, considering what they have coming back, considering that they have just not been able to get over the hump, this is the year. If it's not going to be this year, I don't know if it's ever going to be a year where they make the run towards a national championship and get these big wins under James Franklin. Penn State is coming off of a bye. They're at home. It's a whiteout. They have complained. Penn State fans have been complaining every single year. We need to get a big game, the whiteout. We don't want to play into these games against the Michigans and the Ohio States of the world on Big Noon, on Fox. We've been playing Washington. We've been playing a lower-ranked Auburn team, Minnesota, Iowa, some of these other teams. It's time to get a big game and really show off what a big game atmosphere is like in Happy Valley, and they got it. They got everything they want right now. Now it's time to deliver. Penn State is a team that has not been able to deliver in these types of spots, but their record has been great in the whiteout, certainly over the years. So the pressure is on them right now to deliver. I look at the other side for the Oregon Ducks. There is pressure for them to play competitively. If Penn State goes out there and they just run all over Oregon, Dante Moore turns the ball over, and it is just a pitiful performance. Considering what we saw in the Rose Bowl, and then you follow it up with this in a big game, all of a sudden, people are going to start talking about Dan Lanning. Dude, when he gets into a big game, we know maybe this is not the correct narrative because of what happened last year against Ohio State at home and on a neutral field against Penn State in the Big Ten Championship, but there could be a little bit of a narrative that says, man, lately just Dan can't get his guys ready to go for a big game. But to be honest with you, I think most of the pressure, like 70 to 80% of the pressure right now, is on the Penn State Nittany Lions. I think Oregon is going to be able to sit back there and be like, we're a 3.5-point underdog. A lot of people out there are picking Penn State. We have nothing to lose. Let's play loose. Let's let her rip. We know let her rip was the theme for Oregon in that game against Oklahoma State. And it's safe to say, I certainly think they let her rip in that type of matchup. So I'm curious to see how tight maybe Penn State is playing early in this game, how loose and confident the Ducks are playing early on in this game. Pressure. All about pressure. The thing about pressure, when you crush it, it creates a diamond. Who's going to be that diamond in this game when 60 minutes are completed? Now, there's multiple ways, I think, for both of these teams to win this game. I probably think there's more ways for the Ducks to come out on top than there are the Nittany Lions. But overall, I think is when you look at this game from 10,000 feet in the air, I think that this is the ultimate battle of power versus speed. Penn State wants to dominate the line of scrimmage. One, because that's what their personnel dictates that they can do best. And number two, obviously, they want to keep Oregon's explosive offense on the sideline. Penn State's sure path to victory is playing dominant at the line of scrimmage. Okay? If they get a push with that big veteran offensive line and they're shoving Oregon defenders off, they're getting to that second level, that's a pretty, they're going to win. Let me just put it that way. If they're playing that type of dominant performance at the line of scrimmage, they're going to come out with a W on Saturday. So that's the power that they want to be able to play with. Whereas on the other side with Oregon, I mean, they've got an explosiveness advantage on the perimeter. I mean, their playmakers are just miles above and miles better than Penn State right now. We'll get into the quarterback conversation in just a minute. I don't think it's all that close that Dante is a better quarterback than Drew Aller in this game, but more on that here in just a minute. I think Oregon's going to come out. I think they're going to try to take shots. I think they're going to try to get explosive early on in this game. Get out to that lead. Force Penn State to keep up with your explosiveness, because I think if we get into this battle, we're going back and forth, and it's kind of like this offensive battle. I know Penn State hung around in the Big Ten championship game last year, but when I look at this year's roster, I just think Oregon's better at creating more explosive plays down the field. I think they're faster. I just think they're better out there this season. I just think you get into that back and forth type of game where Oregon's putting up points on offense. I don't think Penn State can keep up over a 60-minute game if Oregon is playing that way. Now, I'll say this about when I talked about, I believe Oregon has more ways that they can come out with a victory against Penn State. Keep an eye on the Ducks' interior run game. Penn State is undersized in the middle of their defensive line. You've got Dave Iuli sitting there at 339. You got Poncho at center at 325. And Pregnon's probably the best run blocker out of all of these guys, the best offensive lineman, out of all of these guys. And he's sitting there at 318. Here's like a early game plan that I could very well see happening for Will Stein. Let's get the big plays going early. Let's kind of quiet the energy. You're never going to completely quiet a whiteout crowd. Let's just put it that way. It's probably the biggest and baddest environment that there is in college football. Autzen Stadium is certainly up there before, as I said. But I think you want to kind of create those explosive plays early, get those points on the board, get that lead, and then if you're able to get that lead, and then you're able to really be physical up front. You get Noah Whittington running between the tackles. You get these guys up front that I just talked about on the offensive line. You get their size leaning into the Alonzo Fords of the world and the Zane Durants of the world. Zane Durant, he got pushed around in last year's Big Ten championship game. You saw the size advantage that Oregon even had last year in the interior, and they're much better on the interior on the offensive line this year. So if they're able to get out to that early lead with the explosiveness and then kind of mix in the run game where they're able to kind of rattle off some longer drives, choose some clock, take some time and some possessions away from Penn State, that seems like a pretty good formula to be able to come out on top in this game. And also when you run the ball for Oregon, it sets up that more traditional play action attack that we've seen so far from the Ducks this season. Okay, I've seen so many things that have been different. Last year with Dylan Gabriel, it's a lot of shotgun, it's a lot of clap. It's a lot of like more newer, more modern, a college type of approach on offense. Whereas this year, you're hearing a snap count from Dante Moore. You're going back to the defense, play action. So now you run the ball, you establish that interior run game, and then we talk about the explosiveness on the perimeter. You hit them with play action, you get protection. We'll talk about protection here in just a minute. But then you're able to hit those one-on-one plays down the field. Maybe you get the linebackers to be able to step up, and you can get Kenya to take 20 to 25 yards over the middle, get a matchup with the safety, and you win that battle. You get a deep post from someone like DeCorian Moore or Malik Benson. Maybe the corners are playing a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage. Like, there's matchup advantage, I think, for Oregon if they're able to execute that type of game plan. Okay, I want to talk about the offensive tackles now, and then we'll get into the quarterbacks. We'll get into Dante Moore here in just a moment. These are edge rushers for Penn State that are really, really good. I think Penn State has the advantage when we're talking about offensive tackles versus edge rushing, a pass rushing type of situation, which I think is another key why Oregon needs to be able to run the ball. You get yourselves into 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10 in a whiteout type of atmosphere. You allow these Penn State pass rushers to pin their ears back, they're going to win battles against Isaiah World and Alex Harkey. I think the offensive tackles for Oregon have been, we'll call it inconsistent this season against lower levels of competition. There's been people that know more about ball than I do that have been talking about that, not only this week, but throughout the other weeks as well. It's anchor for Isaiah World. It's lean for Alex Harkey. But, Dennis Sutton is a powerful guy, and he's a powerful rusher. And when you take a look at someone like Isaiah World, where he's got to be able to get lower, he's got to be able to get more anchor, as guys like Landon Tengwall said this week, Jeff Schwartz has said it, QB11 has said it on his podcast as well, guys that really have access to the film and guys that are able to watch every single play from multiple angles. If he's not able to anchor and if he's not able to get low against someone like DDS is just going to get into his chest and he's going to drive him back. And Isaiah World, 78, is going to be driven into the back of Dante Moore pretty consistently. So they've got to be able to find a way. Chaz Coleman presents a more athletic pass rushing threat, I think, on the other side as well. It would not surprise me to see in some of these passing situations, bring in an extra tight end, play a lot more 12 personnel to be able to chip, give World, give Harkey maybe a little bit more of a chance to be able to help them out right now. They got to put up or shut up. Right? Plain and simple. They have to play a good game. If Dante Moore is constantly under pressure, and we don't know how Dante Moore is going to react when he's constantly under pressure in this type of environment. The last time we saw Dante Moore when he was under a lot of pressure, we saw him at UCLA turning the football over a lot. Now, I think you and I both know, going back to school for that year last year and what he's been able to do, he looks like he's making much better decisions with the football, albeit against lower caliber competition. But how is he going to react in that situation? Oregon maybe doesn't want to live in that world. They want to live in a world kind of like they did in the Big Ten Championship game last year, where Josh Connerly was just owning that battle against Abdul Carter. So however you can help out World and Harkey, and maybe World and Harkey just play out of their minds in this game, but however you can keep Dante as clean as possible and avoid these pass rushing situations where these edge rushers are able to just pin their ears back and win these battles, that's where you want to get to. That's a huge key. Maybe one of the biggest keys, I believe, in this football game. Let's talk about Dante Moore a little bit. I said it before. I think Dante Moore is better than Drew Aller. I don't think it's particularly close. Todd McShay said on the Ringer podcast with Bill Simmons this week, he said, dude, he might be QB1 in college football right now. You might be looking at 1 year of Dante Moore before he's headed off to the NFL. Dante is completing 75% of his passes. Drew Aller's completing 65% of his passes. And I think Dante, not saying Oregon has played a difficult schedule of any kind, but Dante and Oregon have played a more difficult schedule right now and a tougher competition than Drew Aller and Penn State. Like, what a huge stage this is for both of these quarterbacks. Drew needs to be able to deliver in this type of game. But for Dante, this is a huge stage. A huge stage for him to really prove that it just wasn't a weak competition. That he truly is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. If there's one quarterback that I trust that can go out there and win a football game, it's Dante Moore. I trust a lot more that Dante can make the throws to win rather than Drew Aller right now. For Oregon defensively, you need to stop the run at all costs. It would not surprise me to see Oregon creep extra personnel into the box. We've seen like Dylan Thiemann play closer to the line of scrimmage. We've seen how good Aaron Flowers has been in run defense this season. It wouldn't surprise me to see like Dalen Austin and Jaden Kennedy kind of bow in a little bit more to just be able to stop that run. Because, I talked about Aller, I talked about these receivers, and then when I look at Oregon's corners, Iffy, Brandon, they are going to be tested. The redshirt freshman and a true freshman in this type of environment, how are they going to respond? But I think they're more athletic. I think they're just better. I think that the secondary is better and as a better matchup against Penn State's wide receivers. So you bring extra personnel into the box to be able to stop the run, and those defensive line, they need to be able to shed blocks. You can't allow these Penn State offensive linemen to engage, get to that next level, because once they're able to get to the linebackers, once they're able to get a hand on Jerry Mixon, once they're able to get a hand on and a shoulder on Bryce Betcher, that's when you get those 10, 15, 20, 25-yard runs, and and then Penn State is really able to do what they want to be able to do. So whatever you have to do, you need to stop the run, and you need to prevent Nick Singleton from breaking loose. We haven't really seen it so far this season, but we do know he is a home run threat, for this Penn State team right now. Oregon's defense also needs to be able to finish in the red zone and prevent Penn State from finishing in the red zone. Penn State hasn't been fantastic at finishing drives this season, so holding Nittany Lions to field goals like some lower-level teams have been able to do, I think is going to help out Oregon's offense when all is said and done. Here's the last thing I want to finish off with. I know this has been a long one. It's been a long one, but, rightfully so, right? How much is the whiteout worth? Remember last year at Autzen Stadium? At Autzen, I think it was worth a lot. I think Autzen is the factor that propelled Oregon to victory in that game against Ohio State last season. How much of an advantage does the whiteout give Penn State? Because this is an inexperienced Oregon team going into an environment like they've never seen before, right? A lot of young guys on this team. I think the key is get Dante Moore settled in. How is he able to handle the moment? Is he able to take it on and really rise to the occasion? Is he able to settle in? Or is Penn State able to get that aforementioned pressure that I said, and then the energy just keeps on building and building and building and building for this whiteout crowd? The energy, I think, is going to be something to keep an eye on as this game kind of really goes along. The Ducks need to do whatever they need to be able to do to kind of get this game to settle down as early as possible for a quarterback that's going into this type of an environment for the very first time. Okay, folks, we've been talking for a while. It is finally time to put it all out on the line. I've been saying a lot of things where I'm like, yeah, Oregon has more ways to win. I feel like they're more explosive. I feel like they have the better quarterback. But my gut is just telling me something different. My gut is telling me Penn State. And it's telling me Penn State 30-28 because of a couple of reasons. Home field advantage. We saw what home field advantage could do for Oregon last season in a big game where maybe the other team had more talent. The experience. Penn State, with the amount of players that have been in these types of battles, I think makes a difference. There's a lot of freshmen. There's a lot of sophomores. There's a lot of first-year starters out there for Oregon. We're not sure how they're going to be able to handle this type of environment. Penn State has been in these types of battles and these types of environments. And I've said it multiple times. I think Penn State has an edge advantage, coming off the edge against Oregon's offensive tackles. I got this feeling that's going to be a battle all night long and one that Oregon might not win in this game. I hope they win, but right now I'm maybe not the most optimistic about that. This game has the feeling kind of like Oregon, just in a flip sense from last year, where you've got this team that has a great home field environment against another team that's probably more talented than you, but the home team gets the victory in the regular season, and then if these two teams match up later on, and Oregon now has 11, 12, 13, whatever games under their belt, you get Penn State on a neutral field in the playoffs, then that feels like where Penn State gets the edge and gets the win. I don't think Oregon's going undefeated this year. Okay, let me say that right now. They got to get a loss somewhere, and maybe that kind of plays into my prediction a little bit right here. But it is going to be a fantastic game. I cannot wait for this matchup.